So welcome this evening. My name's Jake. I'm with Cloverdale Funeral Home, and I had the honor of being able to assist the family with Al. So if you'll indulge me just a moment. On behalf of the family, I want to extend our heartfelt gratitude for you guys being here and joining them this Friday evening. Your presence is a testament to Al and the impact that he had on everybody here. So thanks for joining us. Tonight we have a special program in store for you. We'll be hearing from some wonderful speakers. They're going to be sharing some stories. Some of those stories may be appropriate, some of them may not be, but in the context of Al and here in this setting, they're all going to be great. We're going to begin with a heartfelt eulogy delivered by Jennifer and Mercedes. Following that, we will have the honor of hearing from a few of Al's dearest friends, as well as his son and namesake, Junior. And lastly, a special message will be delivered by Pastor Doug Peak. Once again, thank you so much for being here and honoring and remembering Al. Your support means the world to the family. So, Mercedes, Jennifer.
Welcome, everyone. We're so happy you're here. I am Jennifer Russell, and Al was my dad. We're going to share a bit of his story. He had a really big life, so it's impossible to say it all.
Hello, everyone. My name is Mercedes Russell, and I am the granddaughter of Al Russell Sr. My grandpa took his final lap around the track on March 29th, 2025 at the age of 91. He was born on March 9th, 1934 in Emmett, Idaho. His parents were Doy and Ursel Russell. He grew up in New Plymouth and Payette during the Depression. He never forgot what it was like growing up during that time, and that definitely helped him throughout life. He always told me he hated school, but made sure that I stuck with it. My grandpa was very street smart, and I am glad that I have a little piece of that in me. He proved to those around him that he did not need to be book smart.
In 1953, my dad moved to Los Angeles. He worked for his uncles at Russell & Russell Scaffolding, and then he received the unfortunate news that his mother was ill with cancer. He returned to Idaho, and she passed away. And I honestly don't think he ever recovered from her death. He then returned to LA, and he worked at a gas station on the corner of Sunset and Laurel Canyon. When I lived in LA for just a year, I used to pass that intersection every day on my way to work. In his spare time, he worked at a motorcycle shop, repairing Harley-Davidson and Indian motorcycles. He learned all he could about the business. Al Russell was eternally cool. He was a guy's guy, and he was a ladies' man. He rode a chopper, he wore Levi's and a white t-shirt, leather jacket, and a signature crew cut. I remember hearing stories about his local heroes, fighters George Logan and Dale Mann. He was so inspired by them that he put himself into the boxing ring and fought for about 3 years.
1963 was the year that he started his very first Yamaha shop with just $1,000. He would always tell me, that was a lot of money in those days. His first shop was located on Vista Avenue and quickly turned into a very successful business and career, as Al Russell Sports Center became the regional Yamaha dealer for Idaho. He also owned shops in Twin Falls and Caldwell. In 2019, he sold his last dealership. Over the years, Yamaha sent him to Japan and Las Vegas on several dealer trips. He was one of Yamaha's most successful dealers. He made lifelong friends through this career, such as Mert Lawwell, Kenny Roberts, and Evel Knievel.
Al's customers became his friends, and his friends were his customers, and he had a lot of both. When I was going to school at Boise State University, I lived very close to the motorcycle shop on Overland and Latah. After school, I'd pop into the shop, and I would find my dad in the front window by the phone, sitting on a snow machine or a four-wheeler, and someone would be in there, and he'd be telling stories. Imprinted in his memory were events, dates, places, and faces, and his stories were always colorful. I can tell you this, he had the most sincere gratitude for the loyalty of his awesome motorcycle mechanic, Kenny Christ, his store managers, Wes Wall and Ed Bollinger. He was eternally grateful to them. He was a man with many interests. After a family vacation to Yellowstone National Park, he became obsessed with buffalo. And so when we got back home, he bought 3 of them, and they were in our small pasture on 5 Mile Road. We later moved to 80 acres on Amity and Meridian, and the herd grew. We also had Texas Longhorn cattle and miniature ponies. We all had our chores, and I remember one of mine was irrigating the field with my dad. He taught me how to drive this little plastic Jeep, and it was called a Citroen Mahari. And I think that Ron Hahn had one of those too. We all actually learned to drive on that little thing, which we love, and my little brother has it now. I distinctly remember at 6:30 every night hearing the truck come down the hill on Amity Road and pull into the driveway. He left work at 6, he got home at 6:30. He had various other businesses and partnerships over the years, including Al's Tire Center, which was right next to the motorcycle shop, the Coffee Clutch, which I managed for 4 years, and it was Boise's original coffee house before all of these coffee shops ever existed. Thrifty Rent-A-Car, Carriage House Auto Sales, the 127 Club, and Northwest Premium Meats. Those that knew him were aware of his unsolicited honesty and his generosity. He always seemed to be willing to invest in those individuals that had ideas he believed in. Some of those were successes, and some were regrets.
Everyone knew him as Dirty Al in the racing community. He started to build cars in 1965 with his loyal friend Jerry Betchen. He raced at Meridian Speedway and Firebird Super Oval. His career lasted 50 years. In 2009, him and his partners purchased Meridian Speedway and eventually restored it. This racetrack is now designated on the National Register of Historical Places. In 2023, they also purchased Magic Valley Speedway in Twin Falls. He Speedway in Twin Falls Racing Association Hall of Fame and completed his last race in 2015 at the age of 81. He was recorded to be the oldest man ever to win a main event at Meridian Speedway. He loved to collect cars and motorcycles, and every year, him and my dad would go down to the Mika auction. He loved the yearly Boise Bike and Roadster Show, which he attended to celebrate his 90th birthday. Shout out to my mom for bringing cake and decorations to that event. Exactly 2 weeks after that milestone birthday, he was at the racetrack watching practice in his truck when he suffered a severe stroke in his parked vehicle. He spent the past year in assisted living where family members and friends visited him each and every day.
We could not Russell was a local legend and icon, and we are proud and humbled to recognize him in this way, as most of you do. We will remember the man who became an inspiration to those.
My grandpa was a rich man, both in life and in character, because he was able to do what he loved every day. He would tell you that he had been damn lucky and lived a good life. We just wanted to thank Cloverdale Funeral Homes and Meridian Speedway. Thank you guys for all coming out today through rain and shine.
We're going to take an intermission for a minute. We're going to attempt to go over there and have a drink, maybe have something to eat, and then we can pick it back up in the event that this goes away. So, take cover. Sorry.
I got a mic stand. fine. She's listening. If I would have got it wrong, she'd have been like,
Check. All right, folks, there is a plan underway, so if you give it about another 8 to 10 minutes, we'll have Jake come up and get us all sorted out. I think they're running to get our podium so we can set up right here. We're in the east side of the garage door bay, so they're making arrangements right now to move all of the festivities inside, and Jake will be with you in about 8 minutes to get that all.
I'm walking away from the microphone a little bit. Okay, maybe I can hear you now. In a big building.
There's a volume control here. I'm going to turn it up. Now you should be able to hear me really good.
Maybe. I can't
All right, ladies and gentlemen, we're going to focus again. We are now around 7 minutes to showtime. 7 minutes. Rain delay is still underway, but we're moved under the barn. Some people are still outside in the midway, so we hope everybody that's out there eventually can make their way in. We're going to be doing our best to alter the facility to accommodate to the weather and let Al Russell Sr. laugh at us as he's throwing the ring down. But give us about 6-7 minutes and we'll be back underway. Again, the food is available and it's going already. If you wanted to get in line, we're doing that on the, you enter through the west roll-up door and head back towards the bar. Al Russell's got his chili out. There's some great sandwiches, cake. Of course, the host bar, thanks to the Russell family. There's also soft drinks and water available up there. So please make yourself comfortable as we sort through this weather delay.
Just hurry and go get a battery, that's all. It'll go good once we have a battery. Go grab one of the camera batteries you had. It was working. Yeah,
We're waiting for the podium. Oh, here, I'll get out of the way. I thought I would recognize
All right, ladies and gentlemen, if I can have your attention, please. If I can have your attention. I know we have lots of fun stories and we love being together, but let's try to wrap this up the right way. We're going to get started again. If you guys can hold those conversations for just a few moments. Thanks. Well, we couldn't have imagined that to happen to us, right? Anyway, as Al's telling me that his dad's up there laughing and getting a kick out of all this fun stuff for us, but as we were just talking about, we're going to do a punt right now. So we're going to finish off in here, and I'm going to invite Davey up here to speak.
That's Al for you. Made it rain on us, got a little windy. What else do you think we'd expect? Well, first of all, thank you everybody for coming, man. I've seen you guys' faces for a long time. Great seeing a lot of you again. I've been out of Idaho too long, so hate to come back for these situations, but Al obviously was like a second dad to me. I knew him. We bought our first. My parents bought our first house from Al in Boise, so I knew him as a little kid, and I always the Dirty Al always stuck with me. Why do you call him Dirty Al? And then I noticed the number on his car is 69. I'm getting like, well, I think something's mixing up there a little bit. But just growing up around Al and what he did for me in my career, honestly, and traveled around with me. We had so many good times. Some of the stories I'm not going to tell. There's a few I am going to tell because I see there's people who may not appreciate all of them. The one where we're traveling, he's going with me to California, and we're getting to Reno, and it's snowing like crazy. And I go, man, now we gotta get over the pass. And he goes, we'll make it. Don't worry. We get to Donner, the road's closed. He goes, don't go the other way. Go 395. We'll go that way. That will be closed. So we start that way, and it's closed. So I go, now what, Al? I'll go back to Donner because it'll clear before this one. So we go back, and I remember going to Reno like 2 in the morning. It's snowing like crazy. There's really no cars out, and so this light turns red, and I run through it because there's obviously a lot of snow and slick. And next thing I know, a cop pulls up next to me and tells Al to roll his window down. And he goes, hey, that light back there, you guys weren't even close. And I go, I told him to stop. I don't know what the hell he's thinking. So I go, okay, I see how this works, right? So there's another great story when I actually lived with Al. Actually lived in his basement for a while and was neighbors with little Al. We had a great time then. That's where every Sunday he would get on his war sidecar motorcycle, this old thing, and I made Orville get in the sidecar, I think, and then I was on the back. Then Al drove us to Chinese food all the time, right? So that was our Sundays. But we were in the shop. I was building him a race car one time, and we're in the shop, and he answers the phone, back to house phones that you get off with cords and all that, and he answers the phone, and next thing he goes, she's not here, and because she ran off with some guy a couple weeks ago, and if you see her, send her back. I go, what was that? And he goes, oh, some guy called asking for lady of the house. Well, as we know, I don't think Al had a lot of ladies. We know that, right? But never lady of the house, right? That wasn't happening. So I learned a lot from Al. There's no question about that on all fronts. But the time I was able to spend with him was priceless. He was a character, as we all know. He earned that name, Dirty Al, all the time. when he raced out here, I know Jeff and him raced together and they had a few issues, which, you know, father and son, my dad said, we've had that issue. But it was always fun watching him have fun. And when he came to races with me, he was one of my biggest supporters, honestly. And I'll never forget those days. I mean, I know a lot of you guys have stories you could tell about him and how great he was and how generous he was. And, you know, we know that Al didn't make it through school a long ways. We do know that, right? And I remember going to, I think it was a Chili's. I think Lil Al might have been with us. He goes, I'm going to have that gutless chicken. I go, gutless chicken? What's that? He goes, right here, the gutless. I go, that's guiltless chicken. Now, guiltless. So anyways, we had a lot of fun with him. He's a guy that you can make fun of, a guy that you could have fun with, and because if you don't have one on him, he surely will have one on you. And I think he did that today with all of us. The rain, the wind, you know, just he's up laughing at all of us. But anyways, I wouldn't miss this for anything. I flew in from Indianapolis just to be here for Al and this, and Al Jr.'s and his family are my family. So thank you everybody for coming. Appreciate it. Friends, good evening. I'm going to get a little bit more serious here this evening. And I'm not going to stand up here and tell stories about Al. If that was the case, I could stand up here for days. But I know all of you have wonderful stories too, so why don't we just lock them away in our memories and just savor them. But what I did want to do tonight was come here to help send Al off on his next journey. And I wanted to say thank you, Al, for all that you've done for me. Al was a very special man to all of us, but he was more than special to me. Al taught me many lessons in life that helped me through life, and lessons I'll never forget. But I think the most important lesson that Al Russell taught me was that I could do anything that I set my mind to do. And just look how it led me down the path of the road of life. So, Al Russell, you took time to make times good for a pesky little half-grown boy. And I'd like to say that, you know, Al, may the roads rise up to meet you, and the wind always be at your back. The sun shine warm on your face, and the rain fall soft in your fields. And until we meet again, may God hold you in the hollow of his hands. So long for now, buddy, till we meet again.
Okay, I'm supposed to hold this real close to my mouth. My name's Timberwolf, and I'm a good friend of the Russells, especially Junior. And I forgot my glasses, so I can't see very well, and it's dark in here. And I gotta tell you, knowing Al, oh, much better. My twin brother just gave me glasses.
This is using
all right, so
a ton of battery power.
Al asked me to say a few things, and I wanted to start off by just saying, look around this room. There's a lot of people piled in here. They stuck it out. They're dedicated to the Russell family, and if you didn't know Al personally, you probably came because somebody that you know knows the Russell family, and you're supporting the Russell family by being here, and I really appreciate that. And knowing Al, who else would have their memorial within hours of the Pope's? Only Al. I also wanted to read something here. Laura, Al Jr.'s wife, posted something that I thought was really special, and I know that she would never make it through trying to read it, so I'm going to read a couple of paragraphs for her. She wrote,
He was more than just my father-in-law. He was like a real dad to me. He always listened, always cared, and we shared so many great conversations. He loved talking about old times, especially his memories of growing up in Idaho and how much the world had changed since his birth. Through his stories, especially about life during the Depression, I learned so much about resilience, hard work, and values that shaped him. He had a charming personality and a way of bringing people together. He was surrounded by many friends and was deeply loved by all who knew him, kind, generous, and full of life. Even in his later years, his presence lit up the room, whether at home or in a facility where he stayed. The nurses adored him, surprisingly, and he left a lasting impression on everyone he met. Laura worked really hard with Al after his last stroke, trying to speak, doing his ABCs. She shared some videos with me and talked about a dedicated daughter-in-law. And Al, I don't know how you scored her. So, Al always was very respectful about Laura and really loved her. I'm going to plagiarize a little bit of the obituary and have a couple of things I wanted to say. If you heard, you probably didn't hear outside because the wind was blowing so hard. In 1953, Al moved to LA and left home. He was 15 years old. That's just incredible. I mean, kids today, thanks for the glasses, by the way. Oh, I got to bring this up. I had a guy come into my office, and he said, "Hey, I scored a great deal on some buffalo meat." And I thought, oh boy, this is going to be good. He says, "You want some?" I said, "Sure, bring it in." So we brought it in, and sure enough, it had the name Northwest Meats on it, and somehow Al sold this guy a whole bunch of buffalo meat. So I took it home and I tried to eat it. Now this is a big one. If you didn't read the obituary, listen to this. After retirement, he purchased 3 airplanes, and then he went and got his pilot's license. Now, how many guys have the cojones to buy 3 airplanes? Now, I got to tell you, he probably didn't buy them. He probably traded for them. But most guys get a license first, and then they learn to fly. And I actually was learning to fly at the same time. And when I heard him on the radio, I kept my feet on the ground. He was a good pilot, but he was a risk taker, I got to say. And I'll hurry up. I don't. A little long? Okay. The racetrack was very special to Al. You were his second family and considered him yours, I'm sure, but he had nothing but great things to say about you guys, your dedication, and meant a lot to him. The Roadster Show, I actually showed cars for a while, and Al was a fixture in the booth at the Roadster Show, as you all probably know. I'd get there a little early and Al was there early too. And I'd go wake him up, and he'd sit and tell me stories that I hadn't heard before. And I really felt I was privileged to have him all to myself before everybody else got there and got to hear some of his stories. And I'll always remember that and never forget it. Speaking of stories, I gotta say this. I can't remember what I had for dinner last night, but he could remember names of people that I had tried to forget decades ago. And he would tell these stories, and the names just kept popping up. I'm like, where is this coming from? But he stayed sharp. I mean, you would have never known the guy was 90 years old. You've heard of people breaking out in dance or song, just start singing. He'd break out in a story. You'd be standing next to him, and all of a sudden you'd say, what was that? And he'd say, yeah, that's what happened. I'm like, okay, well, I didn't hear the first part. So he's, well, let me tell you again. I also have kids and grandkids, and they always say, oh, Dad, I've heard that story before. And I'm sure if you guys have kids, they say the same thing. And I got to tell you, when you lose a dad, they're your mentor, your professor, your teacher. They're everything to you. And you find out as you get a little older, your feelings get a little bit hurt. I've heard that story before. But then you get older and you say, I said that to my dad, And I think it's a message to all of us that, I guess I'm called an OG now. Kids say OG. I guess that means old guy. So I'm guilty of saying it to my father. My kids are saying it to me. And I guess the message is that if all of us would just take the time and listen to these stories over and over again, I don't know what I'd give to hear my dad tell me a story one more time. So don't say you've heard it every time. Listen again. If anything had a steering wheel or handlebars, Al was hell on wheels. At the end, he grabbed the handlebars of a Rascal scooter, and he was scooting around down in Vegas at the auction. Mercedes, Al was there. I was fortunate to be able to be with the Russells at the bike auctions, and I'm probably not going to get through this, but he pulled his scooter up next to me, and I looked over and I saw Junior walking around with Mercedes, showing her how everything worked at the auction, the bikes, what to look for. And I asked Al, I said, 20 years ago, would you have envisioned Junior at a bike auction with a teenage daughter teaching her the ropes? And he caught me off guard a little bit, and he said, with a little bit of emotion, unusual, he's a lot better parent than I was. And I promptly responded, that's bullshit, Al. Excuse my French. You made Junior who he is, and he's a great father. And you've done very well. Don't ever sell yourself short. And he actually agreed with me after we argued a little bit more. And it was a special moment that I had with him, and it was the last auction that he went to. Speaking of Junior, his daughter's standing next to me, so I'm not going to tell any stories that I have with him. But we're really good friends. And my kids will never say I've heard that one before with a story with Junior. But I want to thank the Russell clan for sharing out with all of us. I want to thank all of you for attending. It means a lot to them. It means a lot to me to see everybody stick around, especially after what happened out there. But support when you lose somebody is incredible, and this is incredible to see. And I just want to thank everybody, and God bless all of you, and God bless Al.
Hello, everyone. Nice job, by the way. I'm glad to follow you. No, got him. My name's Adam Nelson. Al's been a business partner to me and my wife Kelly for the last 16 years here at the Meridian Speedway. He became a great friend and a great mentor. I learned a ton of things from Dirty Al Russell. Many of them were dirty. I knew Al as a little kid. My dad would take me into the Yamaha store on Layton Overland. Back in the 80s, Dad was running the racetrack back then, and we would go in there and talk to Al about getting the current year's Yamaha. They'd use it at the Speedway, they'd use it all year long, and at the end of the season, they'd give it away. And I'm not sure how the deal went, but I've never seen Al give anything away, so I'm sure there was something going on. But they would get a new one every year. I would pretty much just remember an old guy sitting inside at that store, sitting on a motorcycle, talking and telling stories while they were sorting out some deal. I was probably 8 or 9 at the time, and that's the first memories of Al Russell that I had. And my dad had a lot of respect for him, and I just believed him. So little did I know that 30 years later I'd be listening to what I presume were the same stories on a weekly basis. One of the things that I learned from Al is that he and my grandfather, Bill Crow, were really good friends. Bill died back in 75, like 1975. But over the last 16 years, Al would talk about him like he just saw him yesterday, right? And I learned many things about my own grandfather that I would have never known otherwise. This is something that I truly appreciate. Al and I spent a lot of time here together at the Speedway. He truly became like a real grandfather to me, and I appreciate little Al and his whole family sharing their dad with me for, I almost made it, I'm a baby, for the last 16 years. I know. I said I can do Al without crying. Can't do it. I appreciate Al Sr.'s generosity to my wife and my children. And just, overall, sorry, I have to breathe for a minute. Overall, I'm going to miss my friend. I only got 3 lines left. My kids call me a ball baby, so hang on. The racing community and all of us here in this room, we lost one of the last living legends. Still going to be a legend, of course, but there's not many living legends. There are so many stories to be told, of course, about Al, and you guys are sharing many of them, running back and forth. I've heard tidbits of some of the ones I've already heard a million times and some new ones. Al Russell was an original. I know most of you will agree that God broke the mold after he made him. Thanks.
Hi, I'm Al Russell Jr., and I just wanted to tell you that I spent a long time, several sleepless nights, thinking about what I was going to say tonight. And so I made it's probably 3-4 pages long, and I thought, well, I probably should run it through AI to make sure I spelled everything right, and make sure everything flows properly and all that. So I'm reading it, and I'm like, I would never say it like that. There's no way I would say words like that. So I scrapped that, and then I just kind of started writing things down from my heart, and I figured I couldn't finish it. So what I did is made a short video, and hopefully you guys like it.
this was all set to run perfectly outside in the rain. So please be patient with us for a second while they try to get this going.
Hi, my name's Al Russell Jr., and I'm going to tell you a few stories about what it was like growing up with my dad at the Yamaha shop. So when I was young, about 12 years old, I had odd jobs working at the shop. I'd pull weeds, I'd sweep the floor, take out the trash, fill the pop machine, just odds and ends to kind of keep me busy during the day. And then one day I saw my dad and Dave Carey, the manager at the time, over in the corner talking and kind of smiling and looking over at me. So my dad came over and Dave came over and he said to me, he said, son, I talked to Dave and we need an assistant manager and you've been doing a really good job and we think it's time that we move you up. And I was thrilled. I was so excited. I'm thinking in my mind, I'm gonna get some business cards and probably get my own desk and, you know, probably maybe even get a raise, all that good stuff. So anyway, after I calmed down a little bit, I went over and I said, hey guys, what exactly will my jobs be? What will I do?
I'm just trying to.
And my dad looked over at Dave, and Dave smiled.
That's why I have it listed.
And he said, do you remember what you saw Dave and I doing this morning when you came to work? I go, yeah, you guys were on the garbage can, jumping up and down on the trash, making more room for more trash. And they both looked at each other and smiled, and they go, well, that's your job now. So I figured out after a few minutes that they were just playing with me, but it was fun. They had their laugh. And we had lots of fun there. We were always joking around, but also we worked hard. You know, my dad worked 6 days a week, and he really didn't have any formal education other than just dealing with the public. When I went to work for him, I learned everything the hard way. I went to basically the school, Al Russell School of Hard Knocks. And that's just making mistakes and learning from it, and then getting better at it. So the main thing that he taught me was treat everybody the same. The guy that buys a spark plug, someday he'll buy a bike from you. And it's true. So he got the same treatment as the guy buying a new bike. Another thing, my dad was very, very honest and very fair, but he would, you know, call you out if he thought you were trying to get to him, or he would basically be brutally honest with you, which I think that's what a lot of people admired about him, is they never have to worry about what my dad was thinking. One of the first things he taught me, though, is when we're at work, I'm not Dad, I'm Al. So everybody would ask me, why do you always call your dad Al? And I tell them, because when we're at work, it's business. When we're at home, he's Dad. So that's why I always called him Al at work. But my dad was a very, very good storyteller. I mean, he was amazing with dates, times, and places, and even amounts. He could remember what he paid for something in 1950, and it was just, it would blow people's minds. But he was really bad with names. So everybody that came in the motorcycle shop had a nickname. We had the well driller, we had Tommy the Taper, we had George Asphalt, we had even a Spaz, we had Fast Daddy, we had Jimmy Lips, we had the Undertaker, we had a guy named Dog Breath. It was a little bit on and on. But my dad's nickname was Dirty Al. And for years I wondered where he got that from. I'm kind of afraid to ask. But his friends told me that when they first started going into the Yamaha shop, my dad would be working in the back and he had white coveralls on and they were covered with grease from head to toe. And I think if you look at some of the pictures on the slide, you'll see him there working on a Harley motor in the kitchen, and he just was always greasy, and so that's how his nickname stuck. It was Dirty Al. And I remember being at the shop one day watching my dad. He was at the front of the store. He'd always sit on a motorcycle or a snow machine or ATV, and people would come in either the side door or the front door. And one day this group of doctors walked in. I'll never forget it. It was the funniest thing in the world, because these guys are dressed really nice and, you know, really respectable. They walk in and they said, "Hey, Al." And my dad looked over and said, "Hey, Jew boy, what are you doing?" And I just couldn't believe he'd say that to the guy, you know. And I said, "Dad, you can't talk to him like that." And the doctor said, "Oh, Al, it's okay. He's been calling me that for 35 years. I was like, "Yeah, but you should not mock your religion." And the doctor said, "Well, I'm not Jewish." And then of course my dad, on the side, yelled, "He's just a tightwad." And it was hilarious because everybody in the store, because everybody was listening, everybody cracked up. But that was just my dad. He loved to tell stories, and he cared a lot about people. He might say something that would offend some people, but as he told me, he goes, "Al, the thing that bugs people the most bothers me the least." And that's what people think. And even though my dad didn't care what people thought, my dad really cared about people. He was always helping people. I remember kids would come in the store and they wouldn't have enough money to buy a pair of race pants, and my dad would set them up on a payment plan. And they would come in every week after school and they'd make payments until it got paid off. And those same kids came in, and when they had kids, they bought new bikes for their kids. And I heard all the stories about, "I bought my first bike from your dad, and he trusted me," and there's just 100 stories like that. And he was just very, very great man, very honest and very funny. But he was very serious too. He was a very successful businessman, and he loved hot rods, he loved motorcycles, he loved race cars a lot. I remember one time he bought 6 or 7 mini sprints to start a new class, and then he would let me and then Bob Hannah drove one, and just various people drove them, and we had a class, and then he just did a lot for the race community. And I really do believe if it wasn't for my dad and his partners at Meridian, I don't know that it would be here right now. I think it might be, apartment buildings or office buildings, or who knows, with the way everything's growing around here. But anyway, just wanted to share those few stories with you guys, and hope you have a great evening. Good night.
So I just was told by Pastor Doug that I possibly, after showing that, maybe owed a certain group of people maybe an apology for some of the words used. But so anyway, for all you tightwads out there, I'm really sorry. Seriously, I really wanted to thank everybody. I mean, first of all, I want to thank my wife and kid. We've been married almost 25 years, and most, if not all, my friends didn't think I'd make it a year. So I just want to thank them so much for putting up with my crap, because I'm hard to live with. And I wanted to thank my sister Jennifer, and my brother Jeff, and my mom, and stepdad Bob, for really coming together and taking really good care of my dad this last year. We are a typical family with, a few problems, and everybody pulled together, and when it counted, everybody was there for him. And I know the people at Grace Assisted Living, whenever I'd introduce them, they would say, "Well, who's this?" I go, "This is my mom." "Oh, this is your dad's wife?" I go, "No, that's his ex-wife." "And this is my stepdad." And so they all kind of looked at me like, wow, this is a weird deal. But in my opinion, it's not a weird deal. It's what families should do. We should, pull together when we need each other and all that. So anyway, and then I also really want to thank my good friends. Davey, he flew quite a ways to be here for us, and Davey's always been one of my best friends. When my brother wrecked in 2010. We didn't know if he was going to make it. And Davey, as busy as he was, took time out of every day to call me and to see how I was doing. And I will never forget him or forget that. As busy as he is, he's like a brother. And then Timber's one of my best friends in the whole world, and he came a long ways. And then Ed Bollinger started working for my dad when he was 18, and I was just a little punk, 9 or 10 years old. And him and I, he's like a brother to me also. He's always there when I needed him. And I look out here and I see so many people that I met through the motorcycle shop and through my dad, and I just can't imagine not having all you guys in my life. And thank you for coming.
For a few more minutes.
Well, I'm Douglas Peak, and I was a pastor for a while. I'm retired now. I podcast under the heading Salty Pastor. Al, before I start though, you promised me my fee. I haven't seen my fee yet. Where's my fee? I need my fee. Thank you. In honor of Al Sr. Just so you don't think it's a prop. Hold my beer. I've always wanted to say that. I hold a unique distinction in that I believe I'm the only preacher that Al Sr. would have ever wanted to listen to. Is that true? And he asked during COVID, he'd say, hey, you're going to turn that guy on? And so I think one of the reasons why is because he was all of the things that all of his closest friends just said. Lots of words were used to describe him. Davey said he was a character, but he was family. Jerry said, this was a great line, he took time to make time good. That's a great phrase. Timber said he was hell on wheels. And Adam said he was like a grandfather to me. He was generous, he was a friend, and a living legend. And Al always told me that his dad was a great storyteller. But I met Al first, and the first thing I always said to people when I introduced Al to people was like, Al Jr. is a great storyteller, right? He tells story after story. They're just awesome, and I think he is a chip off the old block. When I think about the things that you guys said and the times that I spent with him when I visited him at Grace, one word comes to mind, one phrase in the Bible. It's in Matthew chapter 5, and it says, you are the salt of the earth. And he was the salt of the earth. He was a great guy. The best way is to honor him and figure out how you can be salt yourself. I'll finish with this. The Lord is my shepherd. I shall not want. He makes me lie down in green pastures. He leads me beside quiet waters. He refreshes my soul. He guides me along the path of righteousness for his name's sake. And even though I walk through the valley of death, I will fear no evil, for you are with me. Your rod and your staff, they comfort me. You prepare a table before me in the presence of my enemies. You anoint my head with oil, my cup overflows. Surely your goodness and love will follow me all the days of my life, and I will dwell in the house of the Lord forever. Never forget, my friends, that God is for you. He is not against you. So seek him with your whole heart. Lord Jesus, we just thank you that we had an opportunity to come together and honor Al. And in this moment, we say goodbye, so long, and hope to see you soon. Lord Jesus, this is when we place him in your hands and we let go. For now his time is in eternity. And may he find a track, and may he find a place to ride to bring eternal glory and joy to his soul. In your name we pray. Amen. Amen.
You know, I didn't have the opportunity to know Al Sr. or Al Jr. I'm thrilled to have had the chance to be a part of this, and in the little bit that I've learned, I threw together a quick poem. We're almost done, folks. So indulge me for just a second. He lived for the rush, not just for the speed, but the focus, the edge, the silence between heartbeats as the green flag dropped. The track was his truth, dirt rising, wheels screaming, time folding in on itself. Now the engines are quiet and the lights have dimmed. But he's still out there, in the dust, in the wind, in that space between the start and the finish. As we close this formal portion of the celebration, I want to thank Al, specifically Jennifer and family, for allowing me and Cloverdale to assist with this funeral. This did not go as we had planned, folks. I know that me and Al are frustrated, but please, give us a little bit of grace with that. The thing that I'm astounded with is I've heard so many great stories, not only in the weeks leading up to this that he and I have been working on this, but here. And I'm reminded, and maybe you don't know this, but I'm reminded that Mark Twain in one of his private journals said that no one truly dies until those stories quit being told. That's powerful. So you guys all here have a charge to keep Al Sr. alive through these stories and these embraces and all of these fun, appropriate and not, remarks. So, as we're concluding here, I want to invite everybody back outside. If it is raining, I don't know, we're going to brave, because we are going to send Al off with a bang in a light show outside. That's how we're going to conclude things. And then, of course, socialize, continue to share these stories through the rest of the night and the coming time. So again, thank you so much. Thank you, Al, for allowing me to assist. But let's go outside quick and let this thing go off with a bang, shall we?
Okay, keep streaming. They all crowded. That was so much I left it there. I grabbed the battery because my phone's still attached to it. It's raining just a little bit still, huh? Well, I'm getting Is that what they're doing?
There you go.
Yeah, fireworks are clear out
That's
there.
weird. Where do you want?
We might be working on it first thing in the morning.
Where do you want me to stand? Right here, good enough?
Oh, yeah.
I'm over here on the blocks. I'm fine. I have a raincoat.
Anyway, so you're doing good. Life's good. Good. How are all the kids and grandkids? Hey, how's it going? Swinging the ball. Yeah. I'm good.
I'm behind you now.
Wrong.
I'm behind you. Turn around. Look up.
I thought it was Jesus just looking up.
I've always started out a long time ago. I used to do pricing work, and then you got that haggle around the place.
Then I've got these couple of people on it. Okay. Which one is going to be the top? We'll figure it out. Definitely. And get these people out of my image.
I didn't know who.
Get these couple of people out of my image just a little bit.
Who rolled in?
Yeah.
And I saw it.
There goes the first one. Backward a little bit. Yeah, I do. not done yet. That's scary.
There you go. Okay. And she goes.
Push buttons.
She said,
I don't know, but I'm hoping not me.
go drink beer. For a couple of weeks. That's like, I mean, that's right. I mean, it's like,
I don't know.
Awesome. Thanks, Wes. Thanks, you guys. Okay, folks, time to eat and drink. Two-way street. Two-way street.
You want me to go back inside again?
What a wild ride, huh?
Yep.
I sold Michael for 15 bucks.
The one that's in charge, right?
Hey guys, safe trip. Nice seeing you.
He's over here by this red carpet. He's walking to the pickup. Yes. My great
This is the problem. I assume everyone is
'cause I'm as free as a bird now. And this bird you cannot change. Oh, and the bird you cannot change. And this bird you cannot change. Lord knows I can't bye, bye, baby, it's my sweet love, yeah. Oh, this feeling I can't change. But please don't take it so badly, 'cause the Lord knows I'm to blame. If I stay here with you, girl, things just couldn't be the same. 'Cause I'm as free as a bird now. And this bird you cannot change. Oh, and the bird you cannot change. And this bird you cannot change. Lord knows I can't real close family. But lately some of my kinfolks have disowned a few others than me. I guess it's because I kind of changed my direction. Lord, I guess I went and broke their family tradition. They get on me, want to know, Hank, why do you drink? Hank, why do you roll smoke? Why must you live out the songs that you wrote? Over and over, everybody made my prediction. So if I get stoned, I'm just carrying on an old family tradition. I am very proud of my daddy's name, although his kind of music and mine ain't exactly the same. Stop and think it over, put yourself in my position. If I get stoned and sing all night long, it's a family tradition. So don't ask me, Hank, why do you drink? Hank, why do you roll smoke? Why must you live out the songs that you wrote? If I'm down in a honky-tonk, some old slick's trying to give me friction, I say, leave me alone, I'm singing all night long. It's a family tradition. Lordy, I have loved some ladies, and I have loved Jim Beam, and they both tried to kill me in 1973. When that doctor asked me, son, how'd you get in this condition? I said, hey, sawbones, I'm just carrying on an old family tradition. So don't ask me, Hank, why do you drink? Hank, why do you roll smoke? Why must you live out the songs that you wrote? Stop and think it over. Try to put yourself in my unique position. If I get stoned and sing all night long, it's a family tradition. Get your motor running, head out on the highway, looking for adventure and whatever comes our way. Yeah, darling, go make it happen. Take the world in a love embrace. Fire all of the guns at once and explode into space. I like smoking lightning, heavy metal thunder, racing with the wind, and the feeling that I'm under. Yeah, darling, go make it happen. Take the world in a love embrace. Fire all of your guns at once and explode into space. Like a true nature's child, we were born to be wild.
now the end is near, and so I face the final curtain. My friend, I'll say it clear, I'll state my case, of which I'm certain. I've lived a life that's full. I traveled each and every highway, and more, much more than this, I did it my way. Regrets, I've had a few, but then again, too few to mention. I did what I had to do, saw it through without exemption. I planned each charted course, each careful step along the byway, and more, much more than this, I did it my way. Yes, there were times, I'm sure you knew, when I bit off more than I could chew. But through it all, when there was doubt, I ate it up and spit it out. I faced it all, and I stood tall and did it my way. I've loved, I've laughed and cried, I've had my fill, my share of losing, and now, as tears subside, I find it all so amusing to think I did all that, and may I say, not in a shy way, oh no, not me. I did it my way. For what is a man? What has he got, if not himself? Then he has not to say the things he truly feels, and not the words of one who kneels. The record shows I took the blows and did it my Yes, it was my way.
I've been sitting here
things I miss. Oh, somehow I know there's more to life than this. I said it too many times and I still stand firm. You get what you put in, and people get what they deserve. Still I ain't seen mine. No, I ain't seen mine. I've been getting, just ain't been getting. I've been walking that there line. So I think I'll keep walking with my head held high. I'll keep moving on, and only God knows why. Only God, only God, only God knows why. Only
Sold my house in the city last year. Said I gotta get the hell out of here. Goodbye crime, so long skyscrapers. Best part is I got some Republican neighbors. Well, my doorbell rang about 11:05. 50 truck parked out in the drive. Big old boy bringing my newspaper. Was the first time I met Republican neighbors. They brought us ice cold beer soon as we moved in. Ain't nobody ever heard of CNN. There's fireworks and parties every 4th of July. The girls wear dresses and the men wear boots. Our kids all know which bathroom to use. Every house got a big old flag and a couple of acres. Damn, I love my Republican neighbors. The kids are playing kickball out in the street. You get invited to dinner, it's all red meat. It's King of the Hill meets Susie Homemaker, living the good life with Republican neighbors. They brought us ice cold beer soon as we moved in. Ain't nobody ever heard of CNN. There's fireworks and parties every 4th of July. The girls wear dresses and the men wear boots. Our kids all know which bathroom to use. Every house got a big old flag and a couple of acres. Damn, I love my Republican neighbors. Nobody's got pronouns on our block. The 8-year-olds are listening to Kid Rock. Anyone breaks in, we'll send you straight to your maker. God, I love my Republican neighbors. Sold my house in the city last year. Said I gotta get the hell out of here. Goodbye crime, so long skyscrapers. Best part is I got some Republican neighbors.